On this episode, we talk about...
We already did that.
Yeah, we
No,
did
we
that.
didn't.
Yeah,
Yes,
we did.
You just did it.
I just did it. This is last episode now. Oh my gosh.
Start it over.
You actually just were right next to him when he did it, Nate. Did you
No, I know,
black
but I
out?
didn't think that you...
Would keep that cut?
Where you
Yeah, why would you
call
keep
me
that?
an ass?
Why not?
On this episode, Nate talks and we listen. What?
You clearly don't listen to the intro to the podcast, do you? The one where it was just me and him, which is nonsense.
Okay.
Not honestly, by this point, I'm not expecting the intros to be informative.
No, they're not. They just need to. It's just basically
Broad
small
concepts.
Isn't that
concept.
the stepping stone of being professional?
We're stepping on stones, definitely.
Welcome to Nailed It.
I
Nate.
feel like a disappointed father with this sometimes. Just want to let you know
A
that.
disappointed father?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know what that's like.
I've seen enough.
All right.
Oh, shoot.
So, what
Is
do we?
that a I haven't had sex joke?
No, what? No, I'll tell that one later.
I bet you will.
Okay.
Anyways, so I had a topic that I wanted to bring up real quickly that we keep avoiding, which is the new Star Wars movie. We're just gonna bust right into it.
There's a new Star Wars movie?
Yeah, it's coming out in December.
I thought we just
November?
I thought we just
December.
decided as a group.
December?
Not just us, but the
It's
Star
in
Wars.
November.
It's in
Is it-
December.
I
It
think
always
it's
comes
December.
out during Christmas.
I'm gonna say it's December. Halfway through December? Yes. Okay.
I won't say it's Christmas.
Okay. Oh, Christmas makes more sense.
And go.
Okay, so did you even know that there was a new? Are you joking or are you not joking that there's a new Star Wars?
I honestly forget because I cared that little about the series.
Okay, so
I saw the first trailer.
okay, you saw the first
we
trailer,
already discussed the first trailer. And
right? Because
I remember that.
and the name of the movie was Rise of the Skywalkers.
Sure. Yes.
So when the first trailer dropped, I was very disappointed. It did not make me want to go see the movie or anything like that. But some recent news that has come out is...
But Rey's back.
Okay. Some recent news that came out, which I am excited about, is that they are bringing back Luke Skywalker. They are bringing back Han Solo. And they're bringing back some of the other characters that were in the original one. And they're going back... Basically, a huge plot of this new movie is to fix the last movie.
How
And...
are you going to bring Han Solo back?
flashbacks.
Bullshit. Such
So-
a cop-out.
Well, so this movie is, from what I've seen, is more an actual backstory to Rey and to Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is...
You're going to wait for the last movie to do that?
Right. So Kylo Ren is haunted by the dreams of the original 1, 2, 3. You know, when Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi have the battle on the...
Mustafar?
Yeah, on the Mustafar. He's haunted by flashbacks for that. He eventually goes back to that planet and does something there.
Is this... Is this in the second one?
This is the new one that's coming out.
I have questions.
Okay, hold on. So Kylo is basically haunted by dreams of his past, and he's basically trying to rediscover himself. And even there's going to be things with new scenes with Darth Vader and stuff like that. Rey is going to have the Obi-Wan Kenobi experience with, I'm assuming, with Luke Skywalker, where Luke Skywalker tries to basically say, there's no hope in this person, but you're the only one that can help him through this. And then Rey goes on the journey to find her actual family line, her parents, even though in the last movie Kylo Ren said basically your family was nothing, they were just farmers, and everybody was like, the whole movie was leading up to us finding out who she was, and you just kind of chuck that out the window, like everything in that movie. So this movie, she discovers who she was, and how I think it leads into how her father served Emperor Palpatine, because there's scenes with Palpatine in this too. So it's basically a rediscovering of the original movies and how she fits into the original storyline, and Kylo Ren. So the premise is that hopefully they can go back and fix the last two movies that were out, not including Rogue One, because Rogue One was great.
I liked Force Awakens.
Force Awakens was good. I enjoyed that one, even though it was almost a shot for shot the original Star Wars New Hope, just kind of slightly changed. But anyways, I'm just excited about that.
How is Kylo Ren having flashbacks of a fight that he wasn't even born for?
That's a good question.
Like, not even like a thought or a zygote in Han Solo's body.
Right.
How?
Sex drive. What?
Because Mustafar happened when Anakin was a young man and
right.
Obi-Wan was in his like a middle-aged man.
Right. So I'm gonna say it has to do with the fact that they reintroduced Darth Vader into this one. Hopefully, it's not the Hayden Christensen version. Might be. Don't know.
Are we talking Anakin Skywalker?
Yeah,
or
Anakin Skywalker. So, but I don't know if they're going to introduce him as that, or it's just like the Darth Vader. He'll be in the Darth Vader outfit.
He'll probably be in the Vader outfit.
Probably. So
he's more threatening that way.
Yeah. So there's supposed to be like the actual showing of OP power skills. They're going to go back and show Luke when he was kind of a badass, and like Darth Vader when they were more of a badass.
How are they going to fit all of this into 2 hours?
I don't know. No idea. But it sounds like a more interesting movie to me.
You're right, it does, but it also sounds like a lot that they have to go over. It sounds like what they're doing is jumping between 3 to 5 different plot lines between Rey, Kylo Ren, Luke, and Han as they were younger, and then whatever the last one will be. But it sounds like there's multiple fronts they're trying to jump on, and they're going to try and do it all in one movie.
Right.
It doesn't sound like it'll work.
I don't know. That's the thing. And I don't know if it's going to be a 2-hour or a 3-hour event. Seems like the standard nowadays is almost 3 hours. Just tell a good story.
Like with their mind frame, yeah.
Yeah. But they have a lot to cover and they have a lot to fix. Because Star Wars is teetering on...
Well, this is J.J. Abrams on this one, right?
Yes, this is...
Oh, okay. Never mind. He'll make it work somehow.
Right.
Knowing him.
So, J.J. See, the frustrating thing is J.J. also had a part in the last movie.
But not the same one that he did, though. It was a different director.
Right. It was a different director. He was basically the producer, and there was a different director.
Was he a writer?
I don't know if he was a writer.
Yeah.
So, because the director has the all-around vision, the producer basically makes sure that they are coming in time and budget, basically. And they just kind of critique little things, but in the end it comes down to the director vision, and they just kind of make sure, okay, you continue on with your thing. The other exciting thing about this is Steven Spielberg is back involved with this, trying to fix all the little loopholes and stuff like that.
Are they gonna bring George Lucas out of his ranch?
No.
He's not allowed to touch the movies anymore, is he?
No, he's not. No, because George Lucas is the one that was screwing everything up. George Lucas was literally the one that was screwing everything up. So they brought Steven Spielberg back out to basically fix the movies and go over certain things. And I'm hoping that it works. Because they have a train wreck that they're trying to get back on the rails. And I don't know if they can, but if they do it right, they can. And, I was going to bring this up. I'm going to promote another podcast real quickly. There is a inside, so I listened to a podcast called Inside Jaws. It was the whole walkthrough of all the things that were going on through the making of the Jaws movie and stuff like that. And I love the Jaws movie. It's one of my favorite movies. So they just released, and they're in the process of releasing right now every week, an Inside Star Wars, where they basically start off at George Lucas's, like what he was doing before Star Wars and how he ended up at the point of creating Star Wars and all the frustrating things that they had to deal with, and the fact that the studio wanted Star Wars not even to be made because they thought it was a stupid idea. And so
I know, I saw that episode of The Legend of Tomorrow with George Lucas.
Yeah. So the podcast is very interesting. It's very fun to listen to because they do all the voice acting and stuff like that of all the characters, and but it tells a very fun, interesting view on the whole Star Wars universe of him, like trying to, because it talks about the movies that he had to make before, which was like he made his movie THX. If you've ever seen it, it's really weird, and for the time that it was originally made, it was way too weird for people. So he was working with Francis Coppola or whatever, and they were creating films together that they were obligated to make, and the first one they made was just a huge flop. So he thought he was going to be out of the industry altogether and stuff like that. And it talks about him building up to making this movie after he had the hit movie American Graffiti came out. That allowed him a little bit of capital so he could cash it in on hopefully maybe making the movie Star Wars. So it's a very interesting podcast. I suggest it. But I think it's exciting the things that they're doing to hopefully save this. And hopefully they can. Because they gave us a shipwreck in the last movie. Which I liked it, but I hated a lot of aspects of it. So anyways.
I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on you. You said you had all the topics.
No. I'm just saying. I just wanted to talk about the Star Wars thing real quickly, and I don't know if you guys have any input on whether you think it can be salvaged or is it worth salvage? Because when I was growing up, if you were to say which is the cooler universe, Star Wars or Star Trek, most people would say Star Wars is way better. Nowadays, if you were to ask people which is better, Star Wars or Star Trek, because all the new releases of the Star Trek movies, and they've been all, for the most part, pretty badass, most people would say Star Trek way over Star Wars.
I think that it's debatable depending. You have the diehard fans.
Yeah, I love the movie. I love the movie Die Hard.
Would you rather be a Jedi, or would you rather, or on the dark side if you go
that
that way, or would you rather be on what's it called?
Yes, you just can't even. I think that's a moot point, to be honest, because it doesn't matter.
And then the whole Star Trek thing drives me crazy.
No,
just a quick little rant here.
Stop.
Because what is that universe, anyways, where either you are a commander or something like that in their Starfleet, or you are a dirt farmer? That's it in their universe.
Anyways.
Beat me up.
Anyways. Salvaging it's going to take a lot of work. Again, I didn't see the second one. I tried and I failed.
Right.
salvaging it is going to be a lot. I think having multiple not timelines, but multiple jumps between characters is going to be very confusing in terms of like who am I following, who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, because what it makes it sound like now is that okay, we have Rey. We're going to discover whose Rey's parents were. In the last movie, if you're telling me that Kylo Ren says your parents are just regular old dirt farmers, like that's fine. Clearly, that's a lie. How would he know? They're about the same age.
Right. Well, he would know because of he just can see parts of the Force and stuff like that. So he would be able to know in that way. But he doesn't really know. Mm-hmm. He just
he's saying what he believes is true.
But at the same time, the whole premise of that movie was that your lineage doesn't matter. Anybody can have the Force. It just kind of randomly appears to people. I don't know. It was basically taking the whole premise of the Star Wars movie and all the universes and kind of chucking everything over its shoulder.
Yeah.
Like,
anyways, for them, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. J.J. Abrams is gonna have a lot on his hands, and hopefully he can round off this trilogy before the dudes who messed up Game of Thrones get a touch at it.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah. So. Exactly. We'll see what happens. I guess there's a whole bunch of characters that are being brought in.
That scares me too.
Right. But I don't know. It all depends. If they bring in characters like they did in Rogue One, those are very interesting characters, and I was like, I want to see more of these characters. But they're all dead.
They're bringing past characters, right?
No, I think they're bringing in new characters into continuing on the story, because this is the end of the Skywalker story, supposedly. The Skywalker saga, or whatever. That whole group of people.
I guess.
I mean, technically, it almost has to be, because you've already killed. So Luke and Hans are dead. They're the only two characters that are alive in real life.
Oh wait, Luke died in the last movie?
Yes.
Oh.
Technically. You don't really know he died. He just kind of...
Screw it. Space ghosts.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Space magic ghosts. Doesn't matter. They're alive, whatever.
Space ghosts.
Yeah, Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty funny show.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Force ghosts, I can slap you and laugh and whatever. And then apparently they have the ability to magically change their face between 30 years of reshootings and future Hayden Christensen's.
Yeah.
So.
They're also magically delicious.
Force ghosts?
Yeah.
How many have you eaten?
Way too many. Way too many.
Pause.
That's why I have gained so much weight lately.
Anyways.
I feel like that's my only diet.
Next topic, go.
Next topic.
Yeah.
Go.
I don't know. I have nothing right now.
Exciting in the world.
Everybody be prepared. This is about to become like, what is it? Like the next 40 minutes is going to be nothing but random crap, so I'm just telling you, be prepared.
Wait.
Random crap.
Whoa, hey.
Yeah. I'm letting them know. You can't stop me. It's already done.
So you don't have anything to add to the story?
I gave you my additive. I told you. I was like, I think it's going to be tough.
Right.
I think it's going to be hard, but I think
I know, but
can do it because he's one of those weird in the head like you type of people that have the ability to make stuff good.
Weird in the head?
Yes.
What does that mean?
You have a different way of thought process. Let's look at it like this. In terms of the first three movies, that being 4, 5, 6, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Right.
All great movies, kind of wonky in some places, but then you have one of the greatest sequels of all time, that being Empire Strikes Back, right?
Right.
Am I wrong? No? Okay,
yes.
Thank you, everybody. When it comes to the prequel trilogy, that being The Phantom Menace, The Clone Wars, I almost forgot The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace, The Clone Wars, and Revenge of the Sith.
Which was also linked to Revenge of the Nerds. Right.
Anyways, so when you look at those movies, which one do you like better out of the three?
Out of the first three, I like the last one.
Exactly. because it was like almost not a conclusive ending, but this entire prequel trilogy was just an origin story for how Darth Vader became an asshole.
Right.
That's literally it.
Right. No, that was the whole point.
Right.
Is how did we get to this point? And also because the last Star Wars movie did so bad, they scrapped the Obi-Wan Kenobi origin story.
See, I mean, it is what it is. But watching the last fight on Mustafar, that entire last battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan is a great fight. Great choreography. I don't even care what anybody says. I love that fight.
Right. I thought the movie was good.
Right.
Except for literally the last 30 seconds of the film. Last 30 seconds. And then you almost ruined the entire film for me in the last 30 seconds.
She decided that she lost her will to live.
Yeah. Because having 2 children is definitely not worth staying alive for.
No, not at all. But then, so you have to think about the plunders that were those 3 movies where it had certain bits that were great. That being Darth Maul's entire inclusion, just being alive. In the Clone Wars, I don't know, maybe the Dooku versus Yoda fight. That's all I can remember. And the Geonosis BS. And then you go into Revenge of the Sith, and you have the final corruption, like like watering the seed and watching the plant grow. Guy come in and he's like, I think, and then somebody just threw a thing of gasoline on top of the fire, and now it's like, all right, J.J. Abrams has to try again to try and put this fire down.
Right. Because J.J. was originally just going to do 1 movie.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he doesn't like to go back to things.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to do this one.
But he did all of Star Trek.
Right. I know. Because they keep, if you go, I'm not going to do it, and then you're like, here's some money. And they go, I really don't want to do it. Here's a lot of money. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, what are we doing? Sequel? What is that?
What does that mean? Can I just make this an original movie, but it just happens to link to the other movie?
Yeah. Anyways, that's my thought on it. I hope he does well. Realistically, I don't think it will. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm after the last movie, I'm nervous for the series, but
I honestly just don't want those 2 guys from Game of Thrones touching it.
Why? What was so bad about the Thrones of Games, anyways?
Are we really gonna go back into this? It was rushed. It was honestly rushed towards the end, and it felt like everything that happened wasn't warranted.
Right.
But
I guess that the frustrating thing about the whole it being rushed was that it was like 2 years in between.
I don't know
the ending season of the because that was season 8 or 7?
It had to be 7.
7. It was like 6 ended, and then it was like 2 or 3 years in between.
I mean, still, it's like everything. Literally, it's like I understand.
No, because at the end of 7 is when they knocked the wall down.
Look it up, Nate. Tell me the dates.
Spoiler alert. So, when it comes to the end of Game of Thrones,
You look very confused.
I understand Daenerys' motivations as to why she went batshit crazy.
Right.
It makes sense. Well, my friends are dying. This queen is keeping me from my namesake, my thing.
Right.
So
Plus
I'm gonna burn the town. No.
Plus my best friend just lost her boo.
Yeah. So it's like I'm watching this Daenerys. I understand it, but you're not gonna go from that to that and start burning an entire city. I want to see the build up. Granted, yes, we're having build up through the entire series. You can see Daenerys get more and more ridiculously as time goes on. But that was literally Daenerys, don't burn the city. Okay, when she rings the bell, I won't do it, but if she doesn't, I'll burn the town. Thank you.
I know, but
rings the bell, burns the town. Daenerys.
What are you complaining about? Each episode is almost an entire movie.
No, that's
they're an hour and a half to 2 hours.
When you're watching a series, when you're going to the end, there's no cohesive reason.
You're asking for. They made 6 movies, 6 whole movies. They're 6 movies long. Every single one.
I'm backing out of this conversation.
And
because I'm gonna lose.
they are. It's a TV show.
Nate, step in front of me as my bullet shield.
I'm
6 movies, Nate.
Yes, but like I said,
how long does it take to make one movie?
Let him speak.
Like I said on the last time, the first 2 episodes should have easily been 1 episode, and then you could have.
They could have had an entire season just versus the White Walkers by themselves.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the season after that would have been going up against Cersei.
Yes.
This is the last season,
but it was the last season, so they had to tie up a lot of loose ends.
Whether it's contracts with the actors,
directors, because if you watch anything, even a lot of the actors when they were being interviewed about the last season were going.
Yeah, see, I haven't watched the. I know that they came out with.
I get it. Game of Thrones is their show. It's their show with help from George R.R. Martin. But if they didn't want it to end like a train wreck, because it seems like they just don't care. It honestly seems like they didn't care.
It seemed like they got the ending that they were going to write, but they did it at a faster pace than what the fans wanted. The fans wanted a slow burn to the same ending, but it just got there faster because the whole season, that was the only thing that drove me crazy about the season and the season before, is that first couple seasons you're just trying to get from point A to point B, and it takes an entire season to get from point A to point B. The rest of the season, you're like fast tracking.
Yeah.
You're getting from one island to a whole nother island all the way to the Lannisters in 30 seconds. There's no time in between because the White Walkers are walking the whole time. That is your stopwatch that you're following the whole time. And at the pace that they were at and the place that they were at, they were going to get there in a certain amount of days. So you were going against a time frame of that. By the time they went from the island to the Lannisters,
from where? From Dany's Island?
From Dany's Island to the Lannisters with all the things for them to go back, grab a White Walker, bring it to them. We're talking about a long period of time.
Yeah.
Not only they got the White Walkers, but they had to get the White Walkers back to the island in order to bring it to the Lannisters.
To the King's Landing.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 seasons worth of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's like it's just.
But they got a dragon.
They didn't take a dragon out there. The dragon came and picked them up.
Anyways, I understand. It just feels like they don't care by the end of it because it's like it wasn't. We could have a different director who shares in a way our same vision. I know that's really hard for people to do that, especially when it's 2 people working together. They're both the directors and the writers of the show, and they have the same vision. You can have somebody, hey, this is my vision, have them explain this is what's going to happen, and then have them finish for another 2 seasons.
Right.
And they can get it as like producers, and they can get a cut off the money.
Right.
If money was seriously an issue. But it was more like, nah, screw a table flip, we're out. Like it just felt like they didn't care by the end of it because, like.
But at the same time, maybe they didn't.
And that's
because
it's not okay.
That's like the same. It wasn't even close to as big as a TV show, but Lost. You remember that show? Did you ever watch that?
What show?
Lost, where the plane crashes on the island, and
he's messing with you. You're falling for the trap. He's messing with you.
Fell for the trap. Gotcha.
Anyways, okay.
But at the end, they're all dead.
Right. Whoa, spoilers!
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like what, 11 years old or whatever.
Is it 11 years old? That's also J.J. Abrams.
But it's like,
yeah.
Okay, So, I mean, and
Well,
towards the last couple seasons, I mean, I didn't even watch the last 2 seasons.
Right, but here's the problem with the show.
Like, this show's weird now. Like the first 2 seasons were good, and then kind of slowly got weird.
Right.
And then the last couple seasons was just weird. And then I didn't even watch the last episode, but I read what had happened, and it's like, oh, this whole time they've been dead.
Right.
Okay.
Well, here's the thing about that show. It got weird because, so it was only supposed to be a 2-season show. That's what they were slated for. They wrote the entire show to be 2 seasons. At the end of season 2, they came to them and said, "We have renewed it for another season," and they're like, "You did what?"
Well, so that is the same.
And then so they had to write. So they had their ending, and then like halfway through, they're like, near the end, they're like, "By the way, we renewed this, so you guys are under contract for this much longer."
So is that okay? Is that not the industry? Because the Last Ship, I think it's called The Last Ship.
The one where it's like there's like a super like flu or whatever going on, and everybody has to live on like a super,
so they're in like
Navy
doing
freighter. So dumb.
So they're doing like something in Alaska, and meanwhile everybody's getting sick, and towards the end it's like, okay, well they found the cure, because technically they only had 1 season, right? And then like towards the end of that first season, it's like, oh, they got renewed for a second season because it did so well.
It's also the same with Prison Break. The first season of Prison Break, they break him out of prison, and then they come out with season 2 of Prison Break. Then they're like, what do you have to do? Oh, well, he gets stuck in another prison in another place. Just have the 1 season. Do your show.
Well, right.
Don't renew it. Because there's certain things that you're just like, I have this premise, and then you bring it to a certain point, and then it just needs to end. The BBC does that. They have these shows, and they
also have like 6 episodes.
Yeah, they do it
seasons.
6 episodes per season. Usually the episodes are really good. So but they just end it. A lot of times you're not happy because you want to see more, but the show is complete, and though you want to see more, the ending is satisfying.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like The Last Ship, the ending was satisfying enough because they found the cure.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, well, now.
Right, they get renewed.
And I honestly think it's on like 4 or 5 seasons now. It's kind of weird that it's still going. But, anyways. So, Game of Thrones being as.
I thought that came out like last year. Or the year before that.
The Last Ship?
Yeah.
No, it's like, I think it's on its 4th season. 3rd or 4th season, yeah. Fact check.
Dun, 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 dun. 5th.
Fifth season.
Yeah.
When they found the cure.
But it seems like it stopped November 11th of last year.
So then, okay, so last year was the final season?
I guess so.
But still, 5 seasons when they found the cure. Like, it's like, so then Game of Thrones, you have this popular, like, one of the most popular TV shows. And why would you not, 9 seasons, why would you not try to extend it 1 more to kind of spread out?
If you think about it this way, people from Star Wars come to you and say, we want you to do the next Star Wars movie, but you have to do it in this time frame. Take it or leave it.
Well, yeah, but Game of Thrones. So Game of Thrones.
Right, but
okay, so literally Game of Thrones was the same thing, because I believe when the series first started, it was I want to say it was the middle of the first season that they announced that it got extended for 3 more years.
Right.
So it technically if it didn't do as well as it did, it might have just been one season.
You're correct, but that could be for any show. The thing is,
Right.
The difference to me is that this one has source material. This one has source material I had to work off of and couldn't finish because George R. R. Martin didn't release the last 2 books. Okay, that's fine. I heard by like season 4 or 5, whatever, they went in their own direction anyway. Whatever, I don't care. I'm not your mom. I don't care. So, but when it comes to something like was it Lost, which they only had 2 seasons, that was their plan, but because he got so popular and the TV bigwigs are like, money! They had just like, let's renew this for another season. It's like, I don't want to. You're under contract. I really don't want to. You're writing the story. Alright, nobody's gonna like it. And so they put it on for 16 more years. We get to the final episode and it turns out it was all a freaking dream sequence.
Right.
How pissed off would you be?
Right.
I'd be really mad.
Like, I think Lost went for like 7 seasons. 6 or 7 seasons. And it was supposed to end in 2. So,
It's like the legitimate definition of stretching that shit thin.
right. So, you have to figure out, okay, how do we make this interesting for an entire season that we are extending ourselves out to the ending that we wanted to do in the 2nd season, which you would have been more satisfied with it if it would have just ended in season 2 with them finding out that they're dead. But no, you have to go through this whole cavern of weirdness to say, for the characters to go, wait, what just happened? Why did that just happen? Oh, I thought you were dead. I thought you died in the last season, basically, and you're back and you're talking to us again. What is going on? So you have to go through that whole process.
Somebody told me to watch this show, and I said no. I'm not doing that. He's like, why? Like, how does it end? It's like, they're all in purgatory. Yeah. That.
I watched part of season 3, and it was a very fun show. It was very entertaining. I just never went back and watched it.
That ending is destructive.
But also, like, one of my favorite shows when I was a kid was the A-Team. And after a certain point, I have not finished the show because I know they just decided they wanted to end the show. So instead of them being on the run from the law, they made a deal where they weren't on the run anymore and whatever. I didn't finish the show because I knew, to me, they're still on the run.
But that's your mental limitations. That's you not wanting for this adventure to end.
Right.
Right? That's fine. That makes sense. That happens to a lot of people. My roommate won't finish a whole bunch of animes because he doesn't want it to end.
Because you know the ending of it and you're not happy with it.
Right. I want this to continue being giant robots fighting in space and not a giant robot lolly being floating through space singing at people. That's like, I don't want that second one. I want robots fighting in space.
Right.
You know, I don't want the A-Team to get a pardon from the president so that they can live happy normal lives. I want them to be on the run inside solve these crimes and defeat war criminals. You want that adventure, but it's like, at least give me a good ending.
Right.
when it comes to like Game of Thrones or whatever, or even like Supernatural. Supernatural's going on for like 12 seasons by this point.
It's on its 11th or 12th season.
Yeah,
and I watched part of the first season of that show. I entered in way late, and I understand the premise of it. I was like, how are they going to extend this out? Because it's 2 boys trying to figure out how their dad died. And then I'm like, and then years later, I hear, oh, Supernatural is on season 11. I'm like, how and why?
Yeah. I'll explain that to you.
Did you see the last show or ending of Game of Thrones? The last episode?
We had a spoiler cast.
No, okay, so you did see it.
We had a spoiler cast. What does that say?
So, I didn't know if you watched it or just heard about it. Yes, okay, thank you. So, if you...
I'm going to need you as homework to go listen to our last 3 podcasts before you come over.
Last 3 podcasts, got it. Homework. Yeah. My dog ate it.
Can't eat audio files, bitch.
So if you take the scene where Daenerys and Jon Snow.
Hold on, it's. How do you not know that we have a podcast on the whole thing?
I know we had a podcast.
Like, well, they literally, the last episode was spoiler podcast.
Can't remember if he said that he.
And we talked about the whole thing.
No, I know we talked about it.
But that was the whole point of the podcast. Is the huge first part was about Game of Thrones.
I know.
Okay.
I know that part.
All right.
I just didn't know if he had seen it or if he had.
I spent an entire weekend watching like 6 seasons back, or like four seasons or something like that back to back to catch up.
Okay,
and
so
on the last time,
would it
on the
have
last
been,
day, on the last episode releasing, I finished like the whatever episode was, and that episode came out.
would it have been a better ending if the scene where Daenerys and Jon Snow are in the hall and she asks if like he would follow her, right? And then he said basically yes, and then they kiss, and that's where he stabs her, right?
You alright?
I was looking to see if there's a iPhone charger around here because my phone's about to die.
What's alright, anyways, continue.
So if you take right before he stabs her and you cut that part out,
Dave, sit here. You listen to him talk.
Okay.
I'll grab one.
Alright, thank you.
and you cut that out, and then you basically, so that him killing her never happens, and then you go to the part where Gansoli goes off on their way to the next island.
Right.
She's now she's now queen. He's following her, and Arya goes off west. Sansa becomes now they went to breed, or I don't know how that would have.
Are you confused about the ending of Game of Thrones, or?
Never mind.
I'm just trying to figure this out here. What are you confused about? What are you upset about? Because we had a whole podcast on it. You can talk, Nate. It's on you. It's all the...
No, I don't. And next.
No, I'm back on this.
Nope, I'm done.
No. Alright, so explain it. Let's do it one more time. I'll help you out.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you heard him talk. I was looking for something. Can
Right.
you roughly give me a general summary of what he's curious about?
Okay.
No, I'm not curious.
No, hold
would
on
it
one
have been a
second.
better ending if they did not kill?
Let me explain.
Daenerys?
Yes.
No.
No?
She had to go.
Let me explain. Nate.
No, I got this.
Okay.
You were
What?
mad. You were mad because Daenerys Targaryen died because you have an attachment to the character. When you've been watching this show for longer than 8 years, you should know that nobody is safe.
I know.
That is
but-
your fault. So you were mad that the Mother of Dragons got killed by her lover nephew, and you wanted them to be alive to have a happily ever after, where we know that doesn't exist in Game of Thrones. The way that it ended, despite the rush, whatever the hell it was a more realistic ending. Granted, not all the heroes got out alive. Not all the heroes are the same. They all changed through their experiences.
Right.
The assholes had to go. Granted, Jaime could have redeemed himself. But he decided, no, family's more important. Ooh, rocks. And that's what happened. You know, because Cersei was so power hungry, she was, I can't be beaten. I'm Cersei Lannister. I killed all 3 of my children, essentially, because I'm a terrible mom, you know? And then, well, all 4 if you're going to count this new one that totally didn't make it.
Technically, one committed suicide.
But that was her fault for
Right.
it happening.
Right.
Because she brought the sept into there. She blew up the sept with Marjorie in it,
Right.
which leads to Tormund, who was in love with Marjorie, killing himself.
Right.
That's her fault.
Right, because he's just like, I can't believe my family is crazy.
Exactly. So I don't want to be part of this. And now my mother took away my wife, you know, one that
Right.
I loved, and I had a thing for her.
Right.
And it seemed like she loved me, but we don't know. It didn't look like it, but she was playing that card really well.
Right.
But still, it's like, Daenerys had to go because the way that the show operates is that if there is a tyrant of some sort, minus Robert Baratheon, he was just more of a drunken asshole. Am I wrong?
Right.
Yeah. It's like every tyrant that has existed, everywhere from Aegon Targaryen, the Mad King,
right,
to Joffrey, to
and I really like Joffrey. He's
to Joffrey, to Cersei, to Daenerys, who was going to be the next in line as a new mad ruler, had to go. It was foreseen. There's no way. And I'm sorry to break your heart because I know that you love Daenerys, but she had to go. There was no other way that could have ended. Because let me ask you something. I need you to take this scenario with me. You're with your wife. You love your wife. You marry your wife, right? You find out that the woman...
We hope so.
Yeah. You find out this woman goes on a murder spree in all of Rio de Janeiro and wants to become the new queen of Rio de Janeiro. Are you going to stay there? Your wife doesn't watch the podcast, right? I don't want her to hate me for this question, but it's a hypothetical, so I'm not trying to be serious. I'm honest, like look at everything Daenerys did. Yes, she was a very inspiring leader. She rose up, she took slaves, and she was struggling with keeping that freedom without having to be a ruler type of ruler, you know? And then when she gets to that point...
It's a lot of rulers.
Thank you. When she gets to the end, she's a broken person. She is mad with power. She literally burns people because they look at her wrong. Like, come on. She had to go. Yes, she's pretty. Yes, she's hot. But
yeah,
I don't want to make that woman mad when her dragon has the actual sense to burn down the thing that everything was about to... what they were fighting over.
Right. Gotcha.
Literally, the word Dracarys in bed by accident means a problem. You're not Targaryen. You're not living through that fire.
Right. I do know that some people, what they wanted was the dragon, once the dragon saw that he was dead, she was dead, to try to burn Jon Snow, and then Jon Snow kind of just walks through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jon Snow really realizes that he's the heir, and then that raises his,
Which, by the way, we don't even know if that works. If a half-blooded Targaryen will be able to walk through fire with no problem.
Right, I don't know. So, I mean, it worked with, Dany.
Yeah, of course.
But for him, who knows? So, that's the question is that's what people wanted, is basically that she dies, the dragon tries to burn him, destroys the...
They wanted Jon on the throne.
Destroys the throne in the process. Jon realizes that he is the heir, because it's always been kind of a... I know I am, but there's always seemed to be doubt in it.
Right.
And because he's the son of a bastard or whatever through his whole life. So if you have that mindset, it's really hard to change that on a dime.
Right. and even with that, like, those words and whatnot, it's like, look at the way Dany was. She was threatened because she found out that Jon Snow was a Targaryen.
Right. She would have killed Jon
right.
Snow.
Yeah. She actively said, do not tell your sisters that you are a Targaryen. For me. Please, for me. And Jon told his family the truth, and she lost it. And after the battle with the White Walkers, when they're all hanging out, and nobody's hanging out with Dany because she's the prim princess that pushes everybody away, looks to see that Jon Snow has the people connection and gets more visibly angry.
Right. So
Dany had to go.
She was going to kill Jon
Yeah.
Snow, or Jon Snow was going to have to kill her.
Exactly.
And the more that she got into power, the less opportunity he would have had to been around.
Exactly. Just barely getting out as he did with the Unsullied and with just Tyrion. If Tyrion did not, well, for one, if Tyrion did not tell Jon Snow that, hey, mad ruler's got to go, Dany would have killed Jon Snow at some point.
Yes.
And if Tyrion didn't speak at the behalf of all the lords and ladies of Westeros, Jon Snow would have died by the Unsullied. Strictly by the Unsullied alone, because Grey Worm was not having any of that shit. Dany had to go. And if it wasn't for Tyrion, everything would have been bad.
Dany has to go.
Don't slam the table.
Yeah, don't slam the table.
That was bad.
Yeah, no, does not work. That's almost as bad as Tanner jingling keys.
Also, people that want to sign a petition, stop. That's all I gotta say on that.
Okay, I'm going to say this to the internet world. Nobody cares. You sign as many petitions as you want. Nothing's going to happen.
But,
you're not going to change anything.
But if I sign a petition, I may be able... No.
No.
Stop.
It doesn't do
You're
anything.
wrong.
A petition is just a group of people that I don't even know if those people are real, because it could be somebody just putting their name on 100
You
times.
telling me that Jimmy Fakemore isn't a real person?
No, Jimmy Fakemore is. I know him. It's Jimmy Fagatis. I don't... Fagatis. He's not real.
Oh my god. Anyways.
But Jimmy Fakemore lives on 22 Elm Street.
Now that I've
Nightmares.
explained this to you, are your thoughts still the same?
No,
Are
it makes
you-
sense. No, it makes sense.
Okay. But are you so clouded by Dany Targaryen boobs and butt that you can't see the truth? Because I know that's a problem. I was lost with Marjorie. I knew she was a bitch, but I loved her anyway.
No, I understand.
Okay. I just had to make sure. Because like, in the beginning, it's like, Dany had to live because she's Dany Targaryen, but where's your proof for that working? But just explaining the story out, I just needed to make sure that that's what needed to be said. Dany had to go. I loved her, but Dany had to go.
So this is what I'm hearing you say. We're going to put up our own petition.
No.
We're going to rewrite the Game of Thrones
No.
ourselves.
You two, man.
And it's going to be amazing. Because
Or
it's going to
worse.
be the best script of all time.
No.
And then we're going to put out another petition that says that our movie should never be made. So then we'll have one for and against us. And then we'll put out another petition that says that somebody else should write the Game of Thrones. And then all will be helpful. And all will be back to normal. We'll just keep putting out petitions after petitions until eventually our terrible movie is made. And they hate us for the rest of our lives. Everybody. And then they'll look back.
There are easier ways to do that than what
Then
you're
they'll look back.
describing.
Then what's going to happen is they'll look back at the actual ending of the Game of Thrones, and they're going to say it wasn't that bad. So that's how we get.
You know
that's
what?
how
No.
we fix
You know
Game
what
of
that
Thrones.
is? You know what that is? What you're describing is what they're going to say when the prequel series comes out and it ends even worse.
Yeah. And then they'll go, oh, Game of Thrones wasn't that bad.
Because that prequel series, unless it does really good for its first season, is only getting 1 or 2 seasons.
Right.
Speaking of which, so DC, sorry, this is a complete change, but talking about canceled seasons and whatnot, DC on their own streaming site just released Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's already canceled.
What?
Yeah, they're releasing the rest of the first season, but it's getting canceled. I've heard numerous rumors that it was either visual differences, a money issue, or one of the directors, or no, the DC streaming people wanted them to make the Swamp Thing like the Arrowverse, and the director's like, no. Yeah.
I saw something on it. and I
to
literally
me, it looked like
just
it
saw
was a
something on that
one-season thing anyways.
Depending, I mean, it honestly, if it works,
Because it looked like Swamp Thing was an evil thing that was not trying to save anybody or anything
Swamp
like that.
Thing only cares about the green. Anything else doesn't matter to him usually.
Right.
So, but that would have been the perfect opportunity. With
That
honestly,
was like the opening scene that I saw was these guys are probably they're going, people drop off drugs in the swamp, they go and pick them up, right?
Right.
So they're using this kid as he's on a computer tracking this package or whatever it is, and then and then all of a sudden,
do they have a whole bunch of reduce, reuse, recycle things all over in the small?
No, they have like dynamite and
right. This reminds me of like Captain Planet.
I only got into like 15 minutes of it.
The way they could have set it up is that if Swamp Thing would have done good, they could have tried to do another Constantine, though the guy that plays Constantine already really plays a good Constantine in my opinion. But then they could have started making like
Keanu Reeves?
No. No.
Keanu Reeves did Constantine.
Yeah, and he sucked.
Was it him or was it the
The visual appearance of Constantine was terrible. The movie is fine. Peter Stormare as the devil was awesome.
Okay. Because
Keanu Reeves did fine, but he wasn't the slapstick Constantine that I know.
Okay. Because I really... Keanu Reeves is always one of those characters you're always kind of rooting for. Rarely disappoints. He also has a very sad backstory.
Well, he's definitely made a name for himself in John Wick.
So. Oh, yeah. John Wick.
Matt Ryan.
John Wick 4 is supposed to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would announce that like 2 days after
John
Wick 3 came out.
I think Matt
theaters.
Ryan plays a very good Constantine. He plays there was a show on, I think, maybe it was NBC? I think it was NBC. Or ABC. One of the two. There was a Constantine show. It only lasted for a season because it wasn't getting the viewers that it wanted.
Right.
And so then in the later Arrowverse episodes, in Arrow specifically, and in Legends of Tomorrow, they bring him back as like one of the main staples. And I just love Constantine.
Right. I don't know the story of Constantine at all because I've never seen any of the movies or anything on him.
That's fair.
Right.
Cool. So we got anything else to say? This was mostly just a Game of Thrones rant.
Well, this was explaining Game of Thrones to Nate, and the fact that he was very shocked that you actually watched the episode, even though we had a whole episode about it.
I know we had a whole episode. I just couldn't remember if he said that he watched it or if he heard.
I watched the rest of the seasons of Game of Thrones so that any time that we would have a spoiler discussion,
The room, like when we were having a discussion about Game of Thrones.
So I spent an entire weekend watching from season. And he leaves for Daenerys and whatever, right? So from season 4 to season 8 in a week. Just so when we had that spoiler talk.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is you put in a lot of time and effort and you took a lot of time out of your life to do this, to get caught up so we could talk about it on the podcast. I forgot you even.
Yeah. That happens. That happens. No, because just I've been more watching shows recently, so I found Once Upon a Time to watch, and that first season is really rough to me in terms of how it is, because I'm on the edge of my seat of just let somebody remember who they are in this stupid town, and when somebody remembers, they either die or forget, and I'm like, okay,
right.
And then we get past that, and I'm in season 2, but that one's Captain Hook is awesome.
Captain Hook is great in that show. There's a bunch of good characters. I stopped watching after season 3 or 4 because it kind of took some weird turns, and I just was kind of lost interest.
Okay.
I kind of like the show. I like the premise of the show, but it also kind of felt like they kept repeating the same thing. And like
That's what I'm afraid of.
Another season later, everybody loses their memory again.
Oh, come on, for real?
Yeah.
That's a spoil. Wow. Wow.
So.
Well, there goes wasting time on
that. But it's also
spoiler,
That's
David.
That's fine. 9 seasons, I'll forget.
It's also like
God dang it, David.
No,
Have you-
it's fine.
have you seen the show The Good Life or whatever? They do something like that in that.
Sounds familiar. Is that the one where like it tells 2 different stories from like the past and the future?
No, it's The Good Place. Sorry, The Good Place.
Oh, that's the one where like they're in some type of like special purgatory, right?
That's it. It starts off that they are in heaven, and they're going through the whole thing. And one of the characters is a really bad person, and she's trying to figure out because she's in heaven, and the premise is that she switched places with somebody else, so with the same name. So somebody else, a good person, is in hell and she's in heaven, and she's trying to act like a good person even though she's a terrible person. But at the end of the season 1 or 2, I think 1, you find out that they've been in the bad place the whole time, and the god character in the show is actually one of the demons or whatever.
Huh.
So, but the next
How does that
season,
work when
the next season is basically him restarting the timeline and trying to fix it. 'Cause he's trying to run an experiment. What if, in order to torture the humans, we act like they're in a good place?
And then we let them know, and then
We don't let them know, and they just torture themselves by trying to act good, even though they're terrible people. And
okay.
so they're trying.
because I did watch like most of the first season,
Yeah,
and there was
it's a funny show.
there was parts where because when they find out that they must have switched spots, and the demon comes up with the chick that
Right.
is technically supposed to be in a good place,
Right.
but he is a demon. Like I'm confused on that.
They're all demons.
They're all demons.
They're all demons. Every single person except for the actual people, the main characters, are the actual people in the bad place.
So is that why every now and again there's like something bad that happens, and they're trying to figure out, because they're thinking that it's because of, or she thinks it's because of her, because they're in a good place, she's not supposed to be there, so now bad stuff's happening. And is it really because
No,
the
it's because
place is bad
it's
in
'cause
general?
they're trying to dick with her. Like she thinks these things are happening because she's in the wrong place, and she's trying to kind of wiggle her way through this. Of I'm not a bad person. Even though she is a terrible person, and then. But at the same time, they plan all these scenarios so that she feels torturous about having somebody else trapped in another realm, and she's in the wrong spot. So
I do like the character, the guy character, the one that
Ted
Everybody-
Danson,
everybody thinks that he's a Buddhist or something.
Chung Lee,
Probably.
something like that in the show. I think that's his name. I can't remember.
Chun-Li is the name of a Street Fighter character.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyways, it's along that line. Yeah, he plays an idiot, and it's okay. So it's funny because they do. So the next season is him trying to get the experiment right, because they figure out that they're in the wrong place.
I'm gonna watch it now, so stop. Just stop.
Just one thing.
Oh,
So
God.
so the guy that's the idiot figures it out in one of the scenarios. It's like they do a whole bunch of
vignettes and whatnot.
different versions, and they always figure it out or whatever. And one version, the idiot figures it out, and he's like, "You figured it out."
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this rant cast and explanation cast.
I feel like it was on point and very precise,
Was it?
and we hit the targets that we were aiming for.
What targets? I don't remember seeing any targets.
All the targets.
So none of the targets.
No,
I mean, we can go to Target after this.
I don't even
I
put
don't
targets
have
for
any
this
money.
one.
This episode is brought to you by Target.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to the Nailed It Podcast. If you like it, please subscribe to all our social media. Our Facebook is at the Nailed It Podcast. Our Twitter is the Nailed It Pod. Also look for us on Patreon. Thank you for listening.